We continue now at the top of Daf Mem Gimel Amud Aleph in Mesechet Kesuvos. This is Kesuvos Daf 43a. The Gemara here is continuing Rabba's explanation of Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon is responding to the Rabbanan according to their reasoning. Rabbi Shimon says, according to me, it doesn't make a difference whether there was a court case or not. In all situations of Knas, we're going to say that there is no carbon shvua. But Rabbi Shimon says to the Rabbanan, at least you should admit to me in a situation where there was no court case, and you have a situation of Knas, umod b'Knas pater, and we know that he could admit to the Knas and get out of it. So in that case, if he tries to deny it with a shvua, there should not be a carbon shvua. Rashi over here says, umod b'Knas pater v'harei lo tavo el Knas levado. The claim has been the Knas. V'olav nishba, and he took an oath about the Knas, and again he could have admitted. V'kevan diodi lekamon lo mishalim. Therefore, since had he admitted, he would not have to pay. Ki kafrei nami lav mamona kafrei. So when he denies it also with the shvua, he's not really denying any moment because he could have admitted and gotten out of it. And what do the Rabbanan respond to that? V'Rabbanan savri, and the Rabbanan hold ki katava. No, what's really being claimed over here? Boshes upegam katava. The real claim over here, let's say of a situation of onus and mefata, is not a claim. It's not a claim of the knas, but really the person is claiming the boshes and the pegam, the humiliation and the loss in value, and those payments are not knas payments, and therefore the Rabbanan say there would be a carbon shvua. And the Gemara continues, b'maika miflagi. So what exactly are they arguing about? What's the machlokes between Rabbi Shimon and the Rabbanan in terms of what the claim really is? Is the claim really the knas payment, or is the claim the boshes and pagam? Amar Papa says, Rabbi Shimon saver, Rabbi Shimon holds, lo shavik inish midi de kitz, v'tava midi de lo kitz. Very simply, a person is not going to abandon something which is not a set amount. The boshes and the pagam are not set amount of payments. They have to be evaluated. And instead, the person's going to say, forget that. Really, what I'm claiming is something that is set. I'm going to claim the fine. In other words, the real claim over here in terms of money is the fine, and therefore, since the case revolves around the fine, again, Rabbi Shimon holds there is no carbon shvua. The Rabbanan savri, and the Rabbanan hold, lo shavik inish midi dechi modi bei lo mifter. A person is not going to abandon something where if there's an admission, the person's still not pater. In other words, boshes and pagam is the real claim, because there's no way of getting out of it. You can't admit and be pater. V'tava midi dechi modi bei mifter. A person's not going to go ahead and claim instead of thing that if there's an admission, the person is totally pater, meaning the person's not really claiming the knas, because the individual knows, the father knows, if I claim the knas, the person can just admit and be pater, and therefore the ikar claim really revolves around the boshes and the pagam. And the Gemara continues, Boy minei Rabbi Avina me Rav Sheshes. Rabbi Avina asked Rav Sheshes the following question. Let's say you have a situation of a daughter, and she's being supported by her brothers. The case over here is, let's say the father dies, he leaves over an inheritance to his sons, and the condition of the ksuba is that the sons have to provide now for the daughter from that inheritance. So her earnings, who do they go to? On the one hand, you could say you could say that they're taking the place of the father. Just like over there, her earnings go to her father. And so too over here, her earnings go to her brothers. Maybe they're not similar to the father, because over there by the father, he's supporting her, he supports his daughter from his earnings. But over here, here, they're not taking their own earnings and supporting their daughter, they're taking their inheritance and supporting the daughter, so therefore, maybe it is different. Rashi over here says, this is the condition of the ksuba. But on nukvan if we have any daughters, they're going to be supported from my property. Until again they get married, then they're going to be supported by these brothers. Again, it's really part of the ksuba of their mother. That's what they're using. They're using that money to support the daughter. They're not using their own money, so maybe they're not entitled to her earnings. That is the question of the Gemara. And the Gemara continues, Amar Lei, he said to him, Rav Sheshes responded to Rabbi Avina as follows, Tani Suwa, we learn the answer to this question in a Mishnah. The Mishnah in Ksuba says, Almana nizones minichse yisomim, a widow, she gets supported also from the property of the orphans, Umaise yodeh shalahen, and her earnings go to them, that goes to the orphans. And so therefore the Gemara assumes the same thing should be by a daughter. Just like an almana is supported from the yisomim and her earnings go to them, so to the daughter is supported by the brothers, and her earnings go to the brothers. And the Gemara says, Midami, can you really compare an almana to the situation of a daughter? Almanusa lo nichale b'harvacha, when it comes to his almana, to his widow, he doesn't need that she lives in extra comfort, so he doesn't care that her earnings should go to her. Rather, let it be that the earnings go to the orphans. But Bita, when it comes to his daughter, nichale b'harvacha, he wants her to live in comfort, so he really wants that her earnings should go to her. That's what the father would want. And the Gemara says, Lememra, do you mean to say, Debito adifo le malmanusa, that a person treats his daughter better than his widow? We have a statement to the opposite effect. effect. V'yomer Rabbi Abba, Rabbi Yossi, but Rabbi Abba said that Rabbi Yossi said, Asu almana eitzel habas kebas eitzel achin. They treat the almana compared to the daughter the same way the daughter is compared to the brothers, b'nechasin muatin. Let's say you have a situation where very little property has been left over, and it means as follows: mahabas eitzel achin. Just like if you have a situation of a daughter and other brothers, so a person has sons and a daughter, so the daughter, when it comes to the brothers, if there's very little property left, habas nizones, it's the daughter that gets supported. V'achin yishalu al apsachim, and the brothers, they have to knock on the doors, they have to beg for money. That's what we say when you have a situation of a daughter and her brothers. So af almana eitzel habas, the same is true. Let's say the person has a widow and he also leaves over a daughter. The almana, the widow, takes precedence. Almana nizones, it's the almana that gets supported. V'habas tishal al apsachim, and the daughter, she has to knock on the doors, she has to beg for money, and so therefore it seems like the almana has a higher place than the daughter. And so the Gemara answers, le'inyan zilusa, when it comes to zilusa, when it comes to situations that could be degrading, meaning knocking on the doors and begging for money, almanaso adifale, so there he wants to treat his widow better. He'd rather she be supported and the daughter is the one that has to go out and ask for money. Le'inyan harvacha, but when it comes to living in comfort in terms of the inheritance, so bito adifale, so his daughter is actually preferred, and so therefore he would allow his daughter to keep her own earnings, where that might not be true by his almana. And the Gemara continues, Meisiv Rav Yosef asks a question from our Mishnah. The Mishnah says, by a young girl, Maisi Yodeo Mitziyasa, when it comes to her earnings or those things which she finds, Afal Pishalo Gavs, even though she has not collected yet, Meisa Av, if the father dies, Harei and Shalachin, they belong to the brothers. And so now the Gemara makes an inference from the Mishnah. The reason why it goes to the brothers is because these earnings, they took place while the father was alive. The father automatically is entitled to all of the earnings of his daughter, who's a Nara. But let's say after the father died, then she had earnings. Liatzma, so then it seems like the Mishnah is saying it goes to her. And my lav, is it not? Benizonas, even if she's being supported by her brothers, apparently she still keeps her earnings. So it seems to be a proof that it goes to her. And the Gemara says, lo no, b'she'eino nizonis. The case over here is, she's not being supported by her brothers, and that's why maybe she keeps her earnings. The Gemara says, b'she'eino nizonis, but if she's not being supported, my lememra, what's the chiddush? Afilu l'man damer, even according to the one who says, yachol harav lomar la'eved aseh imi ve'eni zoncha. There's a man damer that says that a master can say to his slave, you have to work for me, and I'm not going to support you. Even though I'm not supporting you, the work you do is going to me. But hani mili be'eved kanani, but that's only true by an eved kanani. To lo chsiv it doesn't say the word imach over there. Aval eved ivri dechsib be imach, but when it comes to an eved ivri where it says imach, lo, this would not be the case, and he cannot say to his eved ivri, you have to work for me, and I'm not going to support you. And the Gemara says, kol shekain bito, certainly that's true by his daughter. It's impossible for the brothers to say to their sister that you have to do work and your earnings go to us, and we won't support you. That can't be. So it's obvious again that she keeps her earnings if she's not being supported. And the Gemara answers, Amar Rava Barula says, lo nitzrucha ela lahadafa. The chiddush over here is, what the Mishnah means to say is, in a situation where the father has died and the brothers are not supporting her, what about the extra money? Let's say she makes enough to cover herself, to support herself, and then she makes extra money. So that already is a chiddush. That you might think goes to the brothers, and the Mishnah is saying, no, in that situation, it does not go to the brothers. But again, it's not a proof to our situation, because the question that we had is when the brothers are supporting her, and the Mishnah is not talking about when the brothers are supporting her. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rava says, Gavra Rabba Rav Yosef, a great person like Rav Yosef, lo yada di'iko hadafa, he doesn't realize that there's extra money. That might be the chiddush of the Mishnah. The Kamosef Tiyuftan, he's asking a refutation from the Mishnah, and that refutation, it's so easy to answer that refutation. It can't be that that's what he meant by his question. And so the Gemara says, El Amar Rava, rather Rava says, Rav Yosef masnisim gufa kashale. Rav Yosef, when he was asking a question from the Mishnah, he understood that the Mishnah itself was difficult. The Katani, because what does the Mishnah say? It says, Ma'isi yodeh u'mitziyas. It talks about her earnings and the things that she finds. Afal pishalo gavsa, even though she didn't collect. So what does that even mean? Mitziyasa miman gavia. Who do you collect something that you find? If you find something, there's no one to collect from. So what does the Mishnah even mean when it talks about you haven't collected that which you have found? Elalav, rather is it not hachikamer? Here's really what the Mishnah must have been saying. Ma'isa yodea kim mitziyasa. We're comparing her earnings to that which she finds. Ma mitziyasa b'chaya avlav. Just like anything she finds while the father is alive goes to the father. Li Liachar misas ha'av liatzma, anything she finds after her father dies, it certainly goes to her. Af ma'isi yada nami, so too when it comes to her earnings, bechaye ha'av la'av, that which she earns when the father is alive, it goes to the father. Liachar misas ha'av liatzma, but after her father dies, it goes to her, and therefore that applies again. It seems to be he was asking even across the board, even in a situation where she's being supported by the brothers. Shema mina, you see from our Mishnah that all of her earnings, even if she's being supported by the estate, still her earnings go to her. And Rashi over here explains, Ma mitziyasa, the mitziyasa pshita landa liatzma. When it comes to things that she finds, it's obvious she keeps it after the father dies. Ta'afila b'chaya, because even when the father is alive, lo zachi ben ha'av elim kein smucha al shulchana. The father only gets what she finds when he's alive, only if she eats by his table, if she's relying on him for support. Like we say in Bava Metzia, misham eva. The reason for that is because otherwise there'll be hatred between them. If she's eating from his table and not giving him what she finds, that's going to create problems. Because really, he's not obligated to support her, to sustain her in his lifetime. It says in the Mishnah in our parak that the father is not chayav b'mizonos bito, with supporting his daughter. Now, if we're going to say that what she finds she keeps, sulo yav lamizonos, he's going to give her nothing. So therefore, in order to encourage him to support her, we say that whatever she finds goes to him. We say that later on also. But when it comes to the brothers, they have to support her from the property of the father, and therefore, again, when it comes to the things she finds, she is certainly going to keep that after the father dies, and therefore we're comparing the earnings as well. We're going to say, even in a situation where she's being supported by the brothers, the earnings go to her. And the Gemara continues, Itmar Nami, it was learned as well. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav, Bas hanizones min ha'achin, if you have a daughter that's being supported from her brothers, Maise yodel liatzma, again, her earnings go to her. Amar Rav Kahana says, my time, what's the reason? Because the pasuk says, Besnachaltem osam livnechem acharechem, osam livnechem velo benosechem livnechem. That's what goes, talking about the avodim kenanim, the slaves, they go to your sons after you, but your daughters, they're not inherited by your sons. That's what it means. Your sons don't get the earnings of your daughters. Magid she'en adam morish zechus bito livno. It teaches us that a person does not give over as an inheritance the merit that he has to his daughter to his sons. The same zechus that a father has to his daughter's earnings does not go to the son. But the Gemara continues, Maskif la Rabba asks as follows, V'yema b'fitoy abbas u'kanosos v'chavolos hakosim medaber. How do you know when it talks about the fact that the inheritance or the daughters they're not inherited by the sons? Maybe that's talking about the fact that they don't get the payment for seduction, they don't get other fines, they don't get the wounds that happen. Those kinds of payments, maybe they don't get, those go straight to the daughter, they don't go to the sons. But maybe when it comes to the earnings, it's different. V'chein taner Rav Chanina, and similarly, that's what Rav Chanina taught. V'pitoy habas the pasuk is talking about, again, the payment for seduction of the daughter, the payment of the fines, the payment of wounds that are inflicted on the daughter. Those things go to the daughter and not to the sons. But the Gemara continues, Chavolos Tzara de Gufanin. Why are we including in here? We're talking about Pitoy Habas and Knossos and Chavolos, and we're saying the pasuk teaches us that the Chavolos don't go to the sons, they only go to the father, but they don't even go to the father. Chavolos actually is a pain that happens to the body, and therefore it doesn't even go to the father. Why is this even in the list? As Rashi over here says, Tzara de Gufu v'Tzara lo Zachile Rachmana liav, this kind of a pain of the body that the father never got. Kidatanya ba'chovel, that's what it says in Achovel and Bava Kama, Bivno v'vito hakatanim yasel segula, you have to give for them, you have to set up that money in a fund, and it really goes directly to them. It doesn't go to the father anyway. So why are we saying the zechus that the father gets doesn't go to the son? Maybe that's chavolos. That's not even a zechus that the father gets. And to that the Gemara answers, Amar Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina. Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina says, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Mem Gimel Amud Beis.